Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video I'm going to be doing some neon pastel nail art using the brand new Kiki London Neon Pastel collection. So I really hope you all enjoy watching. To begin with, I'm going to pop all of the colours I'm going to be using down on my palette. So we're starting off with Limelight, which is such a gorgeous bright green. Now there's 7 colours in the Neon Pastel collection and I'm going to be using all 7 in today's video. So I thought it was just easier to pop them all on my palette so you could see them to begin with. The yellow we have is Glow Stick and look how well it works with the Limelight. Next up we have Chick Flick. Now Chick Flick I recently used on my own nails with a matte top coat and I have to say it looks absolutely stunning matte. So if you haven't yet tried these colours with a matte top coat, definitely give it a go. Next up we have Coral Bay. I was really pleased to see a coral in this collection. I love coral and you'll see that Purple Rain, which I'm popping down now, looks absolutely beautiful up against both Coral Bay and Peach Side, which is what I'm going to pop on my palette next. Now if you haven't already checked it out, I do have a swatch video up of this collection on the channel, so I will leave that linked in the description box below, as that way you can see the colours a little bit better. And lastly, we have Holiday Blues. Now, one thing I love about this collection is how well all of the colours complement each other. You could very easily use all of these in one set together. However, for today's video, I wanted to do 4 completely different designs so that I could share some inspiration for the collection. Now, to go alongside my gel polishes, I'm going to use my Kiki London Nail Art brushes. I did end up using the angled nail art brush as well, but I didn't think I was going to at the start of the video, so that's why I didn't show it. Now let's jump into the nails. So for the first design, I'm going to do a tie-dye effect and I'm going to start off with a white base. So I'm using Kiki London's Coconut and just applying a thin coat of this. This is a really bright, crisp white, so 1 coat is enough for a base for any nail art. Once I've cured that for 30 seconds, I'm going to take my Kiki London detail brush and I'm going to use 4 of the colours from the Neon Pastel collection in this design. So as you can see, I'm taking my detail brush and just painting on stripes. I'm going to clean off my brush between each colour just on my palette. However, if I find I've got too much colour left in my brush, I have got one of the Kiki London alcohol pads there just to clean it off on, because you don't want to mix the colours too much. You'll just end up looking a little bit mushy for the design. Now when it comes to painting on these stripes, you want to make sure that you're applying a generous amount of product, because we're only going to be doing 1 coat. We're not coming over this with a second coat or anything, so you want to make sure that you've got enough product down there so that you're able to create your tie-dye effect and that you've also got enough coverage for the design. So as you can see, when I'm painting them on, I'm making sure that I've got enough down. You want to make sure your lines are ever so slightly touching as well. They don't have to be super neat or super straight, because the whole effect, it all just comes together at the end anyway. So for this design, I used Peach Side, Holiday Blues, Chick Flick and Purple Rain, and I loved how these 4 colours worked together. Now I did play around and try a few different ways before filming to do the tie-dye effect, but this was the way I found easier. I had seen some people do it with a base coat as a blooming gel and also doing it in a tacky white layer as well, but it did give off different effects and I found that this way created the boldest effect, which was what I liked for this specific design. But it's definitely something you can play around with and do different ways if you don't fancy doing it this way. So as you see, we're coming down towards the end of that nail. I've made sure that I've kept the colours in the same pattern. And another thing I'm going to do before moving on to the next step is just make sure that there's no gaps. You don't really want to be able to see any of that white between your colours, because you'll be able to see that at the end result. So any areas where there was a slight gap, I just come in with a little bit more product. Now I'm going to leave those gel polish colours wet and I'm going to switch to my Kiki London stripe liner brush, and all I'm simply going to do is pull my brush through those gel polish colours and then wipe the excess off on one of the Kiki London alcohol pads. So I'm going to do 3 lines in this direction and then I'm going to do 2 lines in the opposite direction down in between those, and as you can see, it's already creating that amazing tie-dye effect. So as you can see, here is where I'm going up in the other direction. Now there's so many different designs you can create with this, and I thought it was such a fun design. Just look how simple that was, but look how amazing it looks. So I'm going to pop that in to cure for 60 seconds. I opted for a 60-second cure rather than a 30-second cure, just because we'd applied the gel polish a little bit thicker, so I wanted to make sure it had all fully cured. And then we're going to come in and top coat. So I'm using the Kiki London No Wipe top coat. I'm going to apply a thin layer of this to the entire design, and then we're ready to pop that into cure as well. And that's design number 1 finished. I loved this one. I think it was my favorite out of the 4, just because of how simple it was, but how amazing it turned out. And the possibilities are endless. You can use so many different colors to create this effect. So let me know in the comments below what you thought of the tie-dye nail. Moving on to the second design, I'm coming in again with a thin coat of coconut. I kept this coat super thin because I'm going to come over the top with a different white to create a different base effect compared to that first nail. So once I had popped that into cure, I'm then going to take Kiki London's Moonlight Pearl. Now this gives off a pearlescent, kind of like a chrome finish, and I love it over a white because it just gives off such a beautiful soft shimmer, and it's a great alternative to a plain white base. So I've popped a thin coat of that down, and then I'm going to pop that into cure as well. Now with the Moonlight Pearl, you can actually pop this over different color gel polishes to create different effects, but I especially love it over the white. Then on this now, I'm going to stamp down a butterfly. So as you can see there, I've popped on some stamping polish, picked up my butterfly image. I'm going to remove any excess that I don't want to place down on the nail. And then I'm going to place this down onto my cured gel polish. And I loved this how it was before adding any colour, by the way. Moonlight Pearl is one of my favourite gel polishes for a base for stamping. I think it just looks absolutely beautiful. But of course I did want to add to some colour to this nail for the design that we were going for. But just look how pretty that looked. Now I see this technique ages ago on Instagram. I can't remember who I first see do it, but since then I've seen quite a few nail techs do it, where you stamp down a black outlined image and color it in using your gel polishes. And when I was going through my stamping plates, I thought the butterfly would be a really good image to do this with, because we can add in lots of different colors and it would just end up looking really pretty. And it's also a really easy way if you're not very confident doing hand painting, but you want something a little bit more glam than just some standard stamping, I suppose you could say. So all I'm basically doing is colouring in using my gel polishes. Now I used the Kiki London detail brush for this, which was absolutely perfect because as you can see, the areas I've got to colour in are quite small, and the detail brush has a really fine tip with short bristles, so it was perfect for this job. As I'm doing this, I am now and then popping it in for a 10-second flash cure, just so that the colours don't run too much, or if I make any mistakes, I can neaten it up a little bit. Just flash curing these kind of things helps, in my opinion. I wanted to alternate between a few different colours, so I went for Glow Stick, Chick Flick, Coral Bay and Peach Side for this. I kind of wanted to stick with those 4 colours because they're peachy pinks, they're all a little bit similar. I didn't want it to clash too much by adding in any blue, purple or the green, and I thought it worked really well, but you could mix this up and use whichever colours you pleased. I do also come in on some of the finer areas, I think, and use the stripe line brush, just because there were some areas where it was a little bit easier to do that. Now, it doesn't necessarily matter too much if you go over the black stamping, but obviously the neater you are, the better the outcome is going to be. So I was trying to be as neat as possible whilst filming, which was a little bit tricky. But I was really pleased with how this turned out, and it's definitely something I'm going to try a little bit more. Let me know in the comments below if you've given this technique a go before. Now, I didn't want to completely colour in all of the tiny sections because I did quite like how the Moonlight Pearl looked through the black outline in certain places. So here especially, I'm just coming in with really thin coats of the colour so that you can see some of the black lines and it's not fully colouring it in, if that makes sense. So this is what our butterfly looks like so far. When I was then looking at it, I decided I wanted to colour in a little bit of the body black on the butterfly. So I popped down a little bit of my Kiki London Blackheart, and again, taking that detail brush, I'm just colouring in the body. I just felt as though this helped make the butterfly pop a little bit more. And then I did exactly the same on the edges of the wings at the top and the bottom as well, just because it helped give it a little bit more definition. Then once I was 100% happy with this, I'm then going to pop it in to cure. You can obviously, if you haven't cured any steps, neaten them up, but I'd been flash curing as I went through, but you still need to pop it in for a full 30-second cure. Then I'm going to take the same Kiki London No Wipe top coat that we used on the previous nail and fully top coat the entire nail. Now I have tried all of the Kiki London top coats over stamping, and I find they all work absolutely beautifully. I know some top coats can separate over stamping, but I've never found that with any of the Kiki London ones. On to the third design. So the third design, I wanted to do a bit of an ombre sweep across the nail using the two neon colours, but I wanted to do this over a nude base rather than a white base. So I'm coming in with one thin coat to begin with of Tea Rose, and I'm going to pop this in to cure for 30 seconds and then come in and do my second coat. The second coat just really helps even out your colour and show the true pigmentation of the gel polish. So it's nice to work in thin coats. I love Tea Rose. It's one of my favourite nudes. Just look how gorgeous it is. Again, popping that second coat in to cure for 30 seconds. Now, as you can see, the colour, the Tea Rose colour, sorry, it does look a little bit matte, and that's because I wiped over it with one of the Kiki London alcohol pads, just because I changed my mind on the colours that I was going to use. So I wiped those colours off, which has given it that matte effect because we've removed the tacky inhibition layer. But I'm now going to come in and I wanted just a sweeping ombre going across the tip. So I've taken my round nail art brush and I've popped down peach side to begin with, and then the chick flick. I'm just building up the colour a little bit. I wanted this to be a bit wavy coming across the tip. Then I'm going to come in with my ombre brush and just blend the colours together slightly. This was a little tricky to do with the ombre brush because we're not ombreing an entire nail. It's just such a small section. So when it comes to doing the second coat of the ombre, I do end up using the detail brush, which I found a little bit easier. But when you are doing an ombre, the first coat of colour doesn't really matter how well it's blended, because you're going to focus on the blend when you come in with your second coat of colour. And that's what I'm doing here. So I'm popping down a second coat of the peach side to begin with, wiping my brush off, and then coming in with the chick flick. Just painting on a nice even layer. You don't want this to be too thin, but at the same time, I don't like to apply too much in one go, especially when I'm doing an ombre. So I'm just building it up as I go, just to get a nice even coat. I'm just using the round nail art brush to make sure I've got enough applied, because when you're working with the nail art brush compared to the bottle brush, you end up picking up less product than what you would if you was using the bottle brush. So I'm just making sure that I do have enough product down. And then I started off blending those two colours together with the ombre brush, just like I did on that first coat, but I was just finding it a little too tricky. It was getting a little bit messy where we're working on such a small part of the nail. So I switched to my detail brush, and I was impressed with how this also worked to create an ombre, or to blend the colours together. So I'm using the same technique of going backwards and forwards like I would if I was using the ombre brush. So I'm taking some of the chick flick into the peach side and some of the peach side into the chick flick. Now here I do come in and just neaten up the shape that we're creating using my angled brush, but I then wanted to come in and just build up the colour a little bit more, because I had applied it a little bit too thin. I didn't want to end up having to do 3 coats because I hadn't actually applied enough product, so it didn't necessarily need a third coat. So I'm just coming in and perfecting that application of the colour, and again just perfecting the blend there between the two colours. And I loved how these two colours blended together. It was a tricky section of the nail, but I reckon if you were doing a full ombre on a full nail between these two colours, it would be a lot easier and it would turn out absolutely stunning. So I had cured that ombre, and then I'm going to take some of the coconut and my striped liner brush and just go along that wavy line that we've created, just to help, I don't know, it just tied it all together. I felt as though it looked a little bit neater adding the white down there rather than just having the ombre. But I was thinking you could also do this line with one of the glitter gels from the Spring Bling collection, or you could even do the line with some foils as well, and that could look quite pretty too. So once I'd cured the coconut, that is the design finished. Now I would love this as a full set, but having the ombres in different colours, so each of the different colours from the collection, I think it would just look amazing. I'm now going to come in and top coat this now. So I decided I would do the last two designs matte. So this is the first one of the two. So I'm going to come in and apply a thin coat of the Kiki London No Wipe matte top coat. And I was really pleased with how gorgeous this looked matte. But here you get a glimpse of what the design would look like if it was glossy. So I've then popped that in to cure for 30 seconds, and how gorgeous does it look matte? I absolutely love a matte ombre. So that is design number 3 finished. We're going to move on to the fourth and final design. I have already done my white base on this one, so I've popped down one coat of coconut and cured that. And then on my palette, I'm taking Limelight, Coral Bay, Glow Stick, and I think Peach Side I went with. Yeah, and Peach Side. So as you can see, I've popped a generous amount of those down onto my palette, and I'm then gonna come in and apply a thin coat of base coat. So we're gonna do a neon smoky marble on this design, and I'm gonna be using the base coat as like a blooming gel. So this is the classic base coat, by the way. It's not the rubber one, just because I find the classic one works a little bit better for this. Now I have left that base coat uncured. Then as you see, I've used a dotting tool to marble my colours together, and then using my round nail art brush, I'm just scooping up that gel polish and gently rolling it into that base coat that's wet on the nail. Now because the base coat is wet, it's going to help those colours blend and merge together to give off that blooming effect. If you didn't want that effect and you wanted a more concentrated marble, you could do the same technique but without applying the base coat. But I quite liked the smoky effect that the base coat gave. And just look how easy yet fun this design was to do as well. So again, I popped that into cure for 60 seconds because the gel polish was a little bit thicker. And then I'm going to come in again with the matte top coat because I really thought this one would look pretty matte. So I've applied my matte top coat and then popped that into cure, and how gorgeous does this look? I love a smoky marble, and these neon pastels created such a gorgeous one. So guys, that's my 4 neon pastel designs. I really enjoyed doing these. They were so fun to do. So I hope you all enjoyed watching, and I hope they gave you some inspiration for the neon pastel collection. If you did enjoy watching, please do give the video a thumbs up and leave us a comment below. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button. Thank you all so much for watching. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.